How are you?
I'm okay. How you doing?
I am good.
Yeah?
I am good.
Nice to be here with you.
Nice to be here with you as well. I suppose we should thank the Loews Hotel for allowing us to be fireside and oceanside here.
Doesn't get better than this. Yeah, big thank you to him, to Younes.
Big thank you.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful hotel.
Yeah.
And we're here today with Laurel Rosen.
Great to be here with you. One more of a great conversation with my friend Evan.
That's right. We always have such wonderful conversations, and I think that was one of the reasons I thought it'd be great to be here.
Yeah.
And of course, you've had some big life events recently, so
I have for sure.
I would love to hear a little bit about that, and really just starting off with what's on your mind with all of this going on here in 23 years of amazing work running our chamber.
Yeah.
So tell me.
Sure. Yeah, it's great to be here to think about it. You know, we had some fun the other day talking. I think this is like a continuation of many conversations. So after being CEO for 14 years and vice chair for 9, really incredible experience. And ever since I let my chair know and the board know, I've been reminiscing. As you can imagine, people are reminiscing with me, you know, how it goes, and thinking about the 23 years of working with people and doing great work together and just growing. When I first came to this position, I was asked to take this position. I didn't even have it in my mind to even consider. Someone said, you should do that. I was actually sitting on the board, and we had to hire a new CEO. And I was on the committee to hire the CEO. So this was just not even in my consciousness at all. And people started reaching out and saying, you should consider this. Now, it's not completely, just a crazy idea, because I've been on the board for 9 years. I was on the Convention and Visitors Bureau board for as many years, if not more. I was chair of the Turning Point board. So I had engagement in the community, but still, it just wasn't something that I ever really considered, even though I was so actively involved already in the chamber. So from that moment on, and one of the first people I spoke to about it was Pam O'Connor, who was then was mayor. And we laughed about it because I was like, she started coming at me with, the things that I know so well now, but different acronyms and things about the city and politics, and she said, oh, Cookie, and I tease her to this day, Pam. She said, oh, Cookie, you're going to get it. So hopefully after 23 years, I think maybe I've gotten it. But it's
a lot to learn.
It's a lot to learn, but it's also this wealth of growth and experience, of being able to be flexible enough to make mistakes. And if I've learned anything in this job, and it's really about life, it's learning how to be human. It's learning how to let other people be human. I think often what's a challenge, especially in this community, is the polarizing and villainizing aspects that can happen, especially when that stems from fear.
Yeah.
People are, especially the last 2 years, people are afraid. So the tendency is to finger point or villainize or blame. It's a human nature, it's a tendency. But I think that certainly is happening in many different ways, not just in our city, but in many places. But I also think with that, we've seen beautiful partnerships. We've seen this level of collaboration that I don't think I saw in my previous 21 years, not to this extent. I think people really recognize that we have to work together more now than ever, and especially looking at the state of the world and the challenges that everyone sees. I've loved the collaboration over the last 2 years, whether it's with our city and economic recovery, whether it's with our Westside Council of Chambers. I'm on the board of the Westside Council of Chambers. We represent the 12 cities. We got together every week. A lot of meetings, a lot of Zoom meetings, but we got together. This need to collaborate, this need to talk, this need to express our feelings, to see what other people are doing and how they're doing.
Yeah.
I think we got that out of the last 2 years. So as bad as it was in so many ways, and certainly, for any business, including the chamber, it's been a struggle. It has. It's been a lot of work, a lot of 7-day-a-week, you know, uh, figuring things out days. But I also think that there's sort of like this evolution that we're seeing. I know I'm seeing it in myself.
Yeah.
And an evolution, not just in terms of skill sets or expertise, but an evolution in terms of emotional intelligence. To be able to still keep going, that level of resilience that we've had to find. We've had to find it, and when you're sitting there in the middle of your living room and you don't know what's coming next, and you don't know if your business is even going to survive, you have to find that somewhere. I find it in my own way. Everyone finds it in their ways. I do it with my yoga and my meditation, with friends and mentors. But I think people, they did it by getting dogs, right?
Right.
People needed connection. They needed to comfort. I think I was like everyone else, in the beginning. It was like, fear-based, scared, isolation, eating, acting out, comforting. I think that's the first reaction. And you get to do that for a while, the grieving aspect of it, and then you're like, okay, now
Reality sets in.
Reality sets in, and also, I think emotional intelligence sets in. It's okay, this is happening, we know what's happening, now what are you doing to take care of yourself so you can be of use to other people?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we've certainly seen in the last 2 years.
Yeah, and I know, you mentioned collaboration, and something that I can say I've experienced firsthand in my own neighborhood, not just Santa Monica, but the collaboration between the neighborhood associations and the BIDs.
Right.
In the case of Ocean Park, the Ocean Park Association, Main Street Business Association, and this was something that previously wasn't really wasn't explored to the depths that I saw it here, where we're working together to work for the residents and the businesses simultaneously as one unit. And think about them, their different needs, but collectively.
Yeah.
And it was truly the community that I think I signed up for in Santa Monica. And it's funny because Santa Monica has so many wonderful things, but then we had this obviously very, very sad event called COVID. And it brought out the best in a lot of things, which I just found that people will find the silver linings and make lemonade out of tough situations. They will adapt. And we did our best here, and I was really proud of us. And I know that was a collaboration firsthand. I know that I experienced right on my block.
Well, I love the music. Part of it is that whole going out your front door and playing music for your neighbors.
Oh, yes.
That was so cool.
Oh, yeah.
I loved that. And
Yeah.
not only, I wasn't there, but I still got to enjoy it and see people having a good time. And to your right, making the best of it. Making the best of it as much as you can.
Yeah.
And we saw so many incidents of that time and again through this period. It's really a time, I think, based on what's happening in the future and us getting to a place that we want to get to, there's going to be a lot of reflection on these last couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of who we are and what we've learned as a people.
Yep.
Really.
In terms of bringing out the best in people,
Yeah.
what do you think that we can learn and give back to the future of Santa Monica in terms of really performing in a way that we haven't had to perform before? The collaboration,
Right.
the level of efficiency. We had to cut things that weren't important
Right.
or deemed less important and really focus on the things that were deemed more important. Some people agree or disagree on what those things are, of course.
Sure.
But there was some really hard decisions that were made.
Many hard decisions.
And it was sad. It was jobs that were lost. But we had to make it through.
Yeah.
And it feels now that we're at a neutral place again that has a lot of goods and a lot of ups and downs, but there's at least a complacency around this is the way the world is now. It feels a little bit. We don't have the same reaction of, what are we going to do? It's more like, we're going to do it,
Yeah.
And that's sort of what I'm feeling. I guess I'm wondering how your experience with the businesses are now going forward, and how are they feeling in general in Santa Monica, and what do you think needs to shift in order to keep things moving in that positive direction?
When you were talking, it's interesting. What I was thinking about is the aspect of change, and referring to that change is hard. I heard someone speak not recently, actually a few years ago, at one of our wonderful events. It was the celebration for the West Side Hunger Coalition, and a woman got up and she had just gotten off the streets, living in her car, and she gets up at the podium. The room is filled with dignitaries, 500 people in this room, right? And she says, "Hi, my name is Mary, and there's only two things I have a problem with, and that's change and the way things are." And that's kind of what I get that. I relate to that, and I think many people do. But change is not easy, and disruption is a part of who we are as a world, as a culture, as a human. But still, there's pain points along the way. And I think those pain points are evident not only in our own experience, but also in the experience of the businesses. There's been this struggle to do the things we want to do and the way we want to do them and the way that we used to do them. Yeah. And things are changed, and they may never be the same. And so that's what the definition of disruption is. You just gotta grab as many pieces as you can, put them back together, and see where you are. And I think that's part of what we're doing is seeing what pieces we get to keep and what pieces need to be changed and filled in and remolded. And I think that's what's happening with our business community. Now, one of the things I'm going to say about that and what we've been thinking about, because as you know me well enough, I'm going to wear my chamber business hat. I'm going to wear the Laurel spiritual, nonprofit, that kind of hat is always as well. So there's different levels of complexity in this conversation. As a business community, we need to understand what disruption is and how we work with it to possibly, hopefully succeed, but also understand when it's not going to work, when you need to shift, and that's part of the disruption itself, understanding shift. I can keep doing this, but boy, am I losing a lot of money. Is this something I really want to keep doing? And if so, how do I change this, or how do I shift? So that's one thing I think people are really looking at, and you're seeing it all over the place. People are changing careers, and the guy on the deli down there is now going and becoming a real estate agent, whatever. It's happening. We see it. But I think there's another part, and this has to do with the collective consciousness in a community, is understand who we are and understand what our strengths and weaknesses are. We happen to have a vulnerability because we're a hospitality town, we're a beach town. So we were hit harder than many places that have industry, they have different industries there. They have manufacturing. So they had the good fortune of having the kind of businesses, industries that were actually making more money, that were more successful. So we've had this conversation with some of our larger businesses who are anchors. Who are our anchors in the community? Who are the ones that are knocking out of the park? What are the industries that continue? We know that healthcare is incredibly strong in this community, one of our best assets. Yeah. We're global leaders in healthcare. It's a really strong.
St. John's and UCLA.
St. John's and UCLA, and Kaiser has a presence, Cedars has a presence. And then many other, Children's Hospital has a presence, strong here. Mm-hmm. But what are those under industries? What's really interesting, and I don't know about you, and I'm sorry to anyone, I don't mean to offend, but there's so much construction going on, especially in my own block, that I see a yellow construction vest, and I'm like, Listen, the fact is, there's different industries that are hurting, but people are doing things. They're out there, they're creating. Our real estate folks, who I thought were still hurting, they're not. People are coming to this town, things are happening. But with that is that complexity. How are the landlords and the real estate people understanding what their product is today? As an example, some of our larger landlords are taking some of these massive suites that, it became, co-working was the thing, right? You took out all the offices, you put everyone in a big room, and now, guess what? That's not going to work so well in this environment. Now what do? Employees don't want to come back. They've learned to be efficient at home. It's easier to have them home. It's less expensive to have them. So what do? So, you can take each industry and see what the disruption is. And hopefully some way smarter people than me are doing that and figuring it out for our businesses. If you want to succeed, this is the disruption, this is the change, this is the path you need to take.
Yeah.
Whether it's having a digital marketing presence, whether you're becoming more creative in the techno world, what does that look like for your industry? And I look forward to those conversations continuing, really hearing from people who are making it, who are successful, whether it's in hospital or construction or real estate, whether it's in some level of manufacturing, it's the restaurants you can see in our town. There's best practice models in this town. There are people that reacted, and I know in particular, I'm not going to mention their name, but one in particular who you know as well, that is actually making way more money during COVID than they ever did before COVID.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping our businesses aren't lamenting and sitting inside and hoping if they put that shingle out again and sit there patiently, that they think magically people are going to come. People have to really suit up and show up and figure out the ways to help themselves. And by doing that, also asking for help. I'll just say that one of the things, even in my chamber for the last couple of years, we were trying to figure out what is the most important things that we can be doing right now in this environment. And it was about resources. It was about connecting people, about resources, show me the money, how you doing, who's going to be there for you, how do we get together, what are the best practices, how do we support the business community, how do we work with our city. So I would say resources and strong advocacy and collaboration and coalitions, vital, absolutely vital. We're still doing that with the strike team. We have a business strike team that's, really going to be continuing to work and go to our council. We met with the chief yesterday. We met with the new city manager. I've met with him numerous times. Here's where we're at. Here's the challenges. Here's the opportunities. What are we going to do? The good news is we have new leaders. We had some shaky leadership there for a while without having so many people out of position. Now we have strong leadership. We have a strong city manager. We have a strong police chief. Great men, great guys, strong, emotionally intelligent, want to work with the business community, which is fantastic.
There was some unknowns there for a while too. There was a period of time where there was some leadership missing here.
That's right.
And I know a lot of people were scared, and we didn't know we didn't have a city manager, we didn't have a police chief. So it's nice to see that and there was a couple people that were off council at that time, right?
Right.
So there was only 5,
Yeah,
right?
there was some transition.
There was some transition, and it has been nice to see that we've come back together, and it sounds like you feel good about where we're at. So.
Well, I'm hopeful. I think that's the most important thing. Say I'm hopeful. But that doesn't mean we can rest on the laurels. Get off of me, right?
Yeah.
You have
No
to.
pun intended.
No pun intended. I'm hopeful, but with a cautionary note that there's work to be done. There's things that our city needs to do to heal our city.
Give me one of the things that you think that would be something that people can take away.
Well, I'm going to give you the one based on the conversation we just had. You have great people, city staff. There's some incredible people that work for the city, but you create a dysfunctional family. You take away staff, you make them work harder for the same pay or maybe even less. Then you take away leadership, so they're working harder. Their leadership is in question. They don't feel supported or directed. And what that does is everyone is afraid to even take a chance to do anything. They're worried. They're not the leader, or they're afraid of the repercussion, or they're just too dang busy.
Yeah.
So you create these dysfunctional.
Government sort of has that a little bit anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
But
risk
this was
averse
a perfect
sort of.
storm.
Yeah.
Perfect storm. So I know that was one of my requests for the new leaders.
Yeah.
Heal your staff, support your staff. So I think that's really important right now, and I think because we need them, and they deserve it. At the end of the day, they really do. I mean, think about police, fire. I mean, think about all those frontline people. And we need to, as always. And you've done really beautiful things around that. We need to acknowledge those people that had to show up no matter what, had to show up, and still continue to acknowledge that and thank them. And I think the other part of it is, and this is not just with COVID, there's been something that we call compassion exhaustion, that people want to give, they want to care, but there's been such a deluge of need and dysfunction and fear and violence and crime and mental illness, and that people are sort of like, enough already.
The term was used heavily around the homeless crisis.
Yes, it was used. It is used there, because people are tired, and
it's hard feeling bad so much too, right? Because there is a lot of compassion, but people don't know what to do, and I think that exhaustion comes from just like,
it does.
Boy, I don't know how much more bad I can feel sometimes, right?
Right.
It hurts. Fear. It hurts to keep feeling this bad.
Yeah.
So
the mental illness, we have so many conversations around here, and there's not enough time to even delve deep into that, honestly. But the fact is, we need to focus on mental illness as part of our safety issues. We just have to. There's no way of getting around that, and we are not doing enough in that area as a region. There's work being done. There definitely is work being done, and there's going to be more good that's happening. When we met with the chief yesterday, we heard some very promising things about increases in staff and working with fire and getting funding for more mental health services. It's all beautiful stuff, and it's like trying to dig our way out with a soup spoon.
Yeah.
So, however, that's why everyone needs to do it together. One soup spoon, not so much. 1,000 soup spoons, we'll probably get somewhere.
Yeah, right.
Right? So I think it's people. You asked me earlier, and I'll just respond in this way. What I think we need, what I need to do, other people need to do. We need to take care of ourselves. We need to find our own emotional intelligence and resilience.
Yeah.
We need to be able to do that so we can be of service to others. So we have the bandwidth, that we're not exhausted.
Yeah.
But it is our responsibility. At the end of the day, it is absolutely our responsibility not only to take care of ourselves and our families, but to take care of each other.
Yeah.
And each other.
I'll say passions is to encourage people to get involved in community. And really because of what you're saying, the importance of getting involved and being there for each other. And it's so easy to get distracted by news,
Right.
which, in my opinion, I don't even know it's hard to even know what's real and what isn't at this point in news, given all the trolling and AI and deepfake, and you can almost come up with stories out of nowhere and share it on social media that's written by a bot. In fact, Tristan Harris was just talking about this in a recent podcast. He was the guy who did The Social Dilemma. And if you get too distracted with all of that, of the just reiterating what you hear and see, and you say, believe only none of what you hear and half of what you see, they say that for a reason.
Right.
But if you take all that into consideration, the only thing left to do that can prevent you from being locked in your house, being an armchair quarterback, which that's your line actually.
It's a good one.
It's okay. And the only thing you can do is get up and try to make a difference for something you believe in, on whatever side you're on.
Right.
I praise people who get out there to do something, because sitting around and doing nothing means you're just unhappy, you're miserable, and who knows how legitimate some of that information is.
Yeah.
But when you're doing, you're part of the solution. You're part of the and at least at the local level, it's so easy to get involved. This isn't like, how do I change the federal climate policy?
Right.
You're talking about like preventing an accident on your corner by putting a stop sign, right? And fighting.
I'll go one further. It's going down your hallway, and checking on the senior that's there, three doors down. I think being of service to others can be these small random acts of kindness, as we say, that have big results. Because, and I love where you're going with this, because the thing that I thought about when you were talking is people feel powerless. And so there's choice here, not easy choice, but there's choice here. So you can sit like your armchair quarterback in front of that TV, in front of CNN or what have you, and go into trance, because it's almost like science fiction. I will look at these people sitting, like looking at, just CNN for hours, or just entrance-like
It's like
place.
the casino people,
Yeah.
like all day pulling
Yeah.
pulling the
Right.
slot machine.
It's this comforting sort of thing because you're not feeling, you're in trance, but you're powerless. And ultimately it doesn't serve anybody, including you, and especially you.
Yeah.
So I think service has to do, in my experience of 23 years in service organizations, is that you have to create that bridge to service for people. You have to give them achievable path. You have to give them small little things to do, and it sort of snaps them out of this minutia, this best intention land, to say, oh wow, that wasn't so bad, that was really great. An example of that is, the work that I did through the Homeless Action Network with West Coast Care, who I adore Pastor Ron and all of them. And while we started the toiletry bags for the homeless, because it's easy, and it reaps rewards, and it creates a humanity.
Right.
It creates collaboration for people of all ages. People feel good about them. It's easy to do. And then when you hand over that bag to someone who hasn't been able to feel human in a long time, and someone's actually looking at them and treating them like a real person and handing them this gift of self-worth, really. How many people when's the last time, John on the beach, when's the last time you brushed your teeth, John?
Yeah.
So it's these small things that have really reap great rewards. So I think that creating that bridge is important. I think the big things are really important, and for people like you or others who are ready or practiced in service, then what's the next step? What are these greater, magnificent things we can achieve together? But I think people are not feeling empowered, they're feeling exhausted, and I think that we have to find those ways to do things together that make a difference. Maybe today it's going to make a difference in just one person's life.
Yeah.
Maybe, and then maybe tomorrow there'll be 10 people's lives. And I think for me, my experience in my 23 years and directly working and running the chamber are those things that I didn't even know. When people came to me and said, you did this, you said this, and it changed my life, or it made such a difference, you don't realize what that did for me that day. And I think if more people could get that light, that light bulb coming on and going, wow, that felt good.
Yeah.
It feels good to do good. And to be able to figure out ways to help people to get out of their trance and their minutia and their inability to act. Because there's so many people, there's so many people with best intentions. They do.
Yeah.
I did for many years before I really, I've been completely dedicated to service for about 30 years now. But before that, I was just filled with best intentions. Oh, that sounds like a great idea. Oh, I wish I could do that. And it doesn't serve me. It didn't serve me. And the one thing that I tell people that I try to really encourage them in terms of service, in this chaotic world we live in, when you open your eyes, you know that at least you've done a little bit to make life a little better for yourself or someone else. And that can mean the world. That gets me out of bed. That can be the difference between someone giving up and someone standing up and moving forward. It really can be, so.
Well, it's the sense of meaning.
It's a sense of meaning.
That, I don't know what percentage of people feel that or don't, but that is what gets you out of bed in the morning, right? It gives you the spark, the energy, the vitality to go and keep doing what you're doing. And if you don't have that, it's easy to stay in bed. It's easy to be depressed. And that's a Viktor Frankl concept, right? In Man's Search for Meaning, which is a great book to recommend to the world, I think. But is that when you have that sense of meaning, any suffering actually ceases to become suffering at an extreme level. But even more important, if it's something that you care about and you believe, and that it's within you to deliver to the world, and you get joy out of that, and that gives you satisfaction, that's about as good as it gets in order to create a sense of meaning, a sense of purpose, and a meaning and a life that's really worth living. And if you can provide an economic model and value, that's really the ultimate. Now you can run a business that can do that.
Sure.
That gets you up every day.
Yeah.
You can survive, feed your family, and keep providing this incredible service.
And there's cool businesses out there. I mean, we have this new Lala Cafe that just opened that's working with people who are less advantaged. And I love. There's so many reasons. Santa Monica, how do I love thee? Boy, you're a tough sister. But let me tell you, I love you like a sister. I love you because of the people who do show up. And there are a lot of people who show up in this community who really care. And it's just being careful that we don't lose our way when we care so much about things, that we have a vision that can become narrow-minded the way things should be.
Yeah.
And so I think there's always that balance between, having some level of willingness to look at things in different ways, because that's part of service. Respecting someone else's opinion, understanding that what I think, there might be something out there that changes my mind. This might be a great idea, but boy, maybe you're going to come up with something that I've never even thought of. And that's, I think, that, and I've done a lot of talks about emotional intelligence because it's so important for people. More than anything, I think emotional intelligence, it's a mistake that we don't teach it in schools.
It is.
Because it can make or break someone. It really can.
It's how you deal with your life.
That's right, or how you destroy your life.
Or how you destroy it. Yeah.
Due to the lack of it. So I think that if we come from that place of, at the end of the day, that we ultimately pretty much want the same things. We want to feel like we're good people. We want to be loved. We want to love. We want to feel like we make a difference. All that great stuff. So how do we get there? Truly get there, in the most positive, light-filled way, and not fall prey to our fears, not fall prey to our egos of I know better than you. And
well, how do we do that in Santa Monica, for example? I mean, we're a microcosm of really what's happening at a federal level, but it's manageable here to some degree, right? But we experience it. We experience the polarity. We experience the bitterness sometimes that can one, prevent things from getting done, but two, it's also just not a nice way of being.
No,
it doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
People make ad hominem attacks constantly, right? Which is, in my opinion, I guess, if you're attacking, it can be construed as childish if you're name calling in a sense.
Absolutely.
So it's that.
And we've seen that on every level, haven't we?
How do adults still do that? How are we name calling people instead of knowing that the end result is to get to common ground, to find consensus? You can't always get what you want. Not everything that comes out is going to be something you love. Is it manageable? It's a give and take, and we have to play nicely together. How do we get there in Santa Monica?
So, maybe some people are not going to like this. So, the council have to go to school, basically. They have to go to ethics class, and ethics teaching, training, whatever you want to call it. And wouldn't it be great if there was a module that was emotional intelligence? That teaches a certain level of decorum. That teaches a way to be graceful and treat people well, and because we learn from our leaders. We do. And we've seen the best and worst of them, especially in this time.
Yeah.
So I think that, but I'm going to step back from that because I'm taking off my chamber hat for a second. I'm putting my little spiritual hat on. I think that we have no power over anyone else. We don't. And we can sit here and talk about what we think everyone else should do all day long. We can do that. And there's a lot that needs to be done. But I think part of it is looking to ourselves. Just how can I be the very best person I can be today? And how can I put my ego aside to be more open and available in a really authentic way?
Yeah.
And I think that's, if I, in my next iteration, my next chapter, I've talked to a lot of people about doing different types of training, teaching. I love to teach. So I think that is a worthy training session of people really understanding how they operate And what are those things? What are those triggers? You know, you said, why do people act like that? Because they're triggered, whether it's from something that just happened, but it manifests from a deep place in themselves that's impoverished in some ways. People don't react like that when they're empowered, when they feel abundant. They just don't. So we lose that ability to feel like that, and what we do is we react. You know, we just, you know, strike out because we're feeling, you know, almost like a baby. You know, you see a baby who's gets swaddled because they're frantic, right? You swaddle those babies. They're like, ah! And you take the baby, you swaddle them, you hold them down, and you say, you're safe, you're loved. And I think that each one of our counselors from time to time probably need to be swaddled. You know, it'd probably be a good idea, you know. But
well, all forms of leadership. I think it's a really hard job.
It's a very
really
hard
demanding.
job.
Emotionally, and you have to really have thick skin to be able to handle the type of emails that they're, you know, getting, and the type of things that people say to them. You have to go in there knowing a certain set of criteria in order to just step into that role.
Right.
So, but everyone needs that, I think, love and support to some degree.
Everyone needs that. And also they have to learn, you know, I was speaking to someone this morning about some of this kind of stuff, and I said I mentor young girls, you know, which I love to do, help them sort of find themselves, and one of them asked me what is one of the most important things I've learned in my career, and I said how to disappoint people, and certainly counsel, that's a very important thing to learn, because you will not make everyone happy ever. One of the counsels said to me, she used to say it all the time, and I used to laugh. She says, I know I've done my job when everyone walks away from the table unhappy. So you have to learn how to disappoint people. In the chamber, I've had to learn how to disappoint. In politics, we've had to learn to disappoint, because everyone has opinions on all sides of the fence.
Yeah.
So you go that way, and those people are unhappy. You know.
And can we accept that? Can everyone learn to accept that today didn't go your way? Right? Or yes, you.
Or you got a piece of it. Maybe, you know. Can you accept part of it? You know, do you have to have the whole pie?
Right.
Or can you get a slice?
Right. And is a slice okay? And maybe next time you'll get more of what you want, but knowing that it's a give and take.
Yeah, or maybe you'll bring the pie to the party next time. And,
So why the anger? What makes
fear? Fear, lack of abundance, self-loathing, judgment.
In north of Montana, huge homes. Best quality of life ever.
Lack of gratitude.
Yeah.
You know, whatever way you want to say that again, it comes right back down to learning emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is gratitude. It's being grateful just for being alive. Being grateful to be healthy. To be grateful to love. You know, it stems from these very basic but such important places in us, is to open my eyes and say, I need this, I know, you know, saying, hi world, thank you for another day. What can I put into the world to make it better? What can I do? What can I do to contribute? And, you know, it's a funny thing, you know, being of service takes you out of yourself and often can help heal you in that moment. Because we're so busy being these self-centered narcissists all the time. I want, I don't have it, I want, blah, blah, you know, right? So to be
Needs
able
machines.
to, and we have to, it's a muscle. You know, this thinking, you know, the thinking helps us, you know, we practice a type of thinking. We change our perception. We make a choice about what we're willing to think about. We make a choice about what we're willing to talk about. I have a friend, all she wants to do is, you know, during the whole Trump thing, I said, not having this conversation. Right. You know, there's people that are addicted to pain and suffering.
Right.
It's just a fact.
I think that gives them the meaning.
It does.
That makes them feel empowered. It's
self-righteous justification.
Yeah.
It's absolutely that.
And it's very similar sometimes, I find, to sports.
Yeah.
Right. It's an intellect, it's a political form of sports where the ability to criticize a person who spent their whole life training, has agility beyond capacity of most people,
Right.
has the endurance beyond the capacity of most people, and the skills required to perform this, and the dedication and determination for years, just their life is spent doing this. And then it's easy to like, you point fingers and be like, oh, you idiot, how'd you drop the ball in front of the entire world who's watching you? How could you do something like that? And I think there's a level, because sometimes there's a feeling that those people are playing and doing it, it gives them a little bit of power to criticize someone else who's doing it. And I think that's similar to in politics, where you're not involved, you're not doing much, you're living your life in whatever way, you're not doing much in terms of service for the community, you're not civically active. But to point fingers and criticize how other people are doing things gives you a feeling of that, meaning that you do have the power and the control.
Yeah, it's self-righteous superiority. And it does. Unfortunately, people feel empowered with anger, instead of it being empowered by love. Love is so much more powerful.
Right, it's way better.
It's so much more powerful, but people go to the anger because it's easy. It's an easy feeling to bring up. It's uncomplicated, primal.
Fear's
response.
our first primal response, right?
Yeah,
so it's sort of a response to that.
But the way that we have to learn the ways that we shift, and it really is that. I as you know, I do my Nam yoga every single morning. Why? Because it helps me shift. It helps me start the day with the right intention. And it's practice changes our brain, it changes our life. Practice. I'm doing it differently today. What am I doing for someone else today? If people took a little bit of time in the morning and set intentions, just a little, just set their intentions that today I'm going to add to the world and not worry what the world's giving me. And again, it's easier said than done for everybody. I get that. But I think small steps, and I know I've said this a couple times, but it's really important that people don't have to be overwhelmed by what they think they should do or could do. They can just do little stuff. Little stuff makes a difference. It's lifting your head, and looking someone straight in the face when you're walking by them, saying, "How are you?
Yeah.
How are you doing?"
I feel like we once talked about that years ago.
Could be.
That was like the smallest effort.
Yeah.
In maybe it was in Civic Love or something.
Yeah.
Remember, it was like, but I remember talking to you about that, where it's like the small, that is the atomic level of contribution to a community. When you walk by a person in your neighborhood who looks safe, we'll say, right?
Yeah.
Generally, you lift your head and smile and say good morning.
Yeah.
Easiest thing you can do,
Yeah.
builds a relationship, makes someone smile, and you just added a smile to the day by smiling at them.
Right.
One smile.
Yeah.
That is the atomic level, I think.
Right. And then what does that trigger? Who are they? Are they suddenly responding to someone in the same way?
Yeah.
It is. It is. I don't know who said happiness. It was like a Dalai Lama or something. Happiness is contagious, and I think these small acts are contagious, or they can be the other way. When I used to run restaurants, we'd say the experience starts in the parking lot, right? Because if that person gets a bad experience in the parking lot and comes already in with an attitude, then they go to the host and they've got a little bit of edge and the host is like, what is the deal with this person? So she's reacting or he's reacting a certain way. And so by the time they get to the waiter, they're just not very nice people.
It's a great tip for businesses.
Right.
By the way.
Yeah.
You don't hear that a lot.
Right. I used to teach that. It's called guest first service. Guest first service.
That's really good.
Right.
Experience starts in the parking lot.
That's right. It starts in the parking lot.
With Ride Amigos,
Yeah.
a transportation company for years now.
Yeah.
One of the things we work on is the employee wellness starts with your commute.
Yeah. Sure.
And very similarly, when you head to a restaurant or you head to whatever store you're going to, if you had trouble parking, you got a little edge. There's a little bit of anxiety there, right? So the more you can remove that on your way to a thing, you're on your way to the thing, you want to feel joy that whole way there, or else there's a little bit it's off. The rating of the whole experience drops a couple points.
Yeah.
So I think that's really good advice for businesses, Main Streets.
Right, and you can always do a reset. I mean, that's what I tell people. Don't let it get to a place where that boulder's rolling down the hill and you have no control of it anymore. You stop, you reset. So and you understand, and again, it's emotional intelligence. If you teach emotional intelligence to your staff, then they know that what's happening right now probably has nothing to do with them.
Yeah, right.
Instead of going, whoa, what did I do to that? It's like, oh, wow. And you get to say to the person, how you doing? You okay? And they go, yeah, I'm okay. I just, blah, blah, blah. Like, so sorry about that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll check into that for you. You want to be able to let people get back in their body sometimes, because you see them, sometimes when they're angry, they're like the way up here, they're like charging ahead.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, what do I do with this information now? Do I take it? It's like Zen. Do I let it pass by me, or do I take it full on? It's these choices that we make in life that really make a difference, and it has to do with our own healing, our own wholeness. You can't. I'm not gonna. Our own reactivity. If I go into the world reactive, I'm going to have a reactive day. If I go into the world making a choice not to be reactive, to be thoughtful, to be whole, then I'm kind of doing my thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people...
I'll add one on that too, not to take things personally like you said before.
Always.
And I think everyone deals with that to some degree.
Always.
I know I've had to check myself and be like, are you taking this personally and you don't need to? Because then you react out of fear and anger again, and you think it's about you.
Yeah.
It's narcissistic behavior, actually.
Yeah.
To think everything is about you and take things personally.
Yeah.
And I think 9 out of the 10 things that we react to are actually things that aren't about us at all. And if we knew what the other person was thinking, we would have been like, wow, I didn't need to go through that mental gymnastics of feeling that way.
Right, because maybe you could have turned that into an opportunity to love, to be of service. Because I can't tell you how many times when I've gotten that and I've gone, all right, what's going on? And they go, no, my mother just died. You know what I mean? We have no idea what's going on with that person. And if we have enough self-worth and compassion, we can shift.
Yeah.
We can shift them. We can help them say, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
What can I do for you? And it's just these. It seems so simplistic sometimes, but these are the things that move mountains. They are, and it's hard for people to understand, because they're reacting and they're doing and they're going to make it okay, And so people are out in the clamor of worldly things, just get out of my way, And I just think that we have a lot of work to do in terms of taking care of ourselves and taking care of each other. Yeah. And making a commitment to do that, really to do that.
Yeah.
Not talk about it and it sounds really great, and not indulge. I don't indulge people in a lot of negative conversations. I just won't. It's like, because they'll find their people.
It's not worth taking your energy either, right?
No.
Because then you have to absorb that and then make that part of your day.
Yeah. And some people, like you said, they get energy from that, and then God bless them. If you want to go and have, with the friends that are going, did you know that? And like, have at it.
They're called internet trolls.
Probably.
Right?
Yeah, have at it,
Where they just they put inflammatory sort of statements on people's feeds just to get a reaction, to create controversy, which then the algorithms increase in virality or whatever, because it's getting
or you
likes.
Just look at
people
next
love
door.
controversy.
Yeah, look at next door. If it's a sweet, loving store, you'll get 23 people with hearts and emojis, and this is great, thank you for sharing. You get something that's really nasty, you got 621 people giving you their opinion.
Yeah. And, it gets controversy.
Yeah.
I think it's well known that controversy sparks that sort of interest immediately, the engagement, and the likes, the comments, the shares. And it's just, people love controversy.
Yeah.
It strikes the fear emotion, it strikes the I'm right emotion, it strikes the you're to blame emotion, and it gets all of that, and all of those And I think that's a huge part of the problem, even locally.
Mm-hmm.
We get, and then these stories really have very little truth to them.
Yeah,
It's just,
yeah. And the thing is, I'm not, I'm not trying to come off Pollyanna, because I am a strong woman, and I've been in conflict, and I've had to walk through things, and I've had to learn how to stand up and have a voice. But what is your intention? I mean, if there are things that you have to talk about, and you're not of the same opinion, of the same mind with someone, then what do you do as a mature, centered human being to say, where do we go with this? How do we get through this?
right,
And that's the if the intention is to have a level of dialogue where you are able to get to some level of connection to another person, or just surrender that maybe we're not gonna think the same way. I'm still gonna respect your opinion and should respect you.
yeah,
So I think that it's the difference between, again, one of my favorite expressions is armchair quarterback. It's a difference between not wanting to do something. Because when I say to people, okay, great, you want to do something? Come with us over here, speak at council. You want to do something, write this. And they're like, oh, well,
they don't want to do
don't
it.
have time, huh?
Yeah,
So it's to what end?
yeah,
And if your intention is right, and it is to be able to have some level of change, to be able to have a voice in some way, to be able to work with people, because we bump against each other. And we don't all have the same opinions, and we shouldn't have all the same opinions. And I've learned in this job to kind of ride that fence a lot, and to respect the fact that I may not really, I may not really believe the way you do, but I respect you as a person and why you think like that.
right.
And that's just a difference in terms of seeing real change happen.
If you were to give one, a magic pill to everyone, and we'll start with Santa Monica,
Yeah.
right? That can give them that, because it's going to, obviously, getting people to take emotional intelligence training is challenging at the leadership level.
Absolutely.
And then also at the civic level,
Right.
because really the leaders just listen to generally the people who are complaining the loudest, or where there's the most need at the
Right.
moment. So, and often there's controversy around these issues.
Mm-hmm.
What could be that one thing that people can do, like today, that everyone can do today, that we can get a little bit better towards civility, a reduction in polarity? Is it turn off social media a little bit? Is it question the information a little bit? Is it give people, when they're talking, if you disagree with them, a little bit more respect? But this would let Santa Monica, I know, if we can do this just a little, be more efficient. Everyone would get more of what they want faster, and we would feel better as a community. What could it be? What could be like one takeaway?
One takeaway. That's a interesting. I'll tell you what came to my mind. Whether it's the right takeaway.
Sure.
What came to my mind is to listen. Just allow people to express themselves. One of the things that drives me crazy is people who will not let each other talk, and they're constantly cutting into each other's statements, and they're not even hearing what you're having to say, because they're already have their comeback.
Yeah.
And so I think if people slow down, try to be less reactive, and allow people to just express themselves and listen, that I think we'd get more. It would be more productive. Because sometimes when you allow them, nope,
Right.
nope,
Right.
not listening,
It's
don't
not
want to
active
hear
listening
it.
for sure. Yeah.
No, I think that's really important, and it's something that I see less of, unfortunately.
Yeah.
A lot of people play this game of consistently cutting each other off in conversations. It drives me crazy. If I'm talking to someone and they never allow me to finish my sentence, I'm kind of like,
Why even say it? Because they're not listening anyway.
they're not.
So that anything you say is worthless. It's hitting a cement wall.
Yeah.
So
And there's no great outcome there. It's two egos. It's like ego, 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 ego. Okay,
It's not even, I wouldn't call it a conversation.
No, it's just two egos smashing into each other.
That's right.
Basically.
Yeah, it's independent conversations,
Yeah.
just taking stimulus and response. It's a response, two response machines independently responding.
Yeah. I mean, the obvious choice is kindness, right?
Yeah.
If I was to say what I think is the most obvious, is make the choice to be kind. Just make the choice to be kind no matter what.
Yeah, and that is a choice.
Yeah, it is a choice. And it's a powerful choice.
Yeah.
Because kindness shifts everything. When you're when you're being critical, when you're judgmental, not to make that choice. Just be kind. That's not necessary. You don't need to put that in. Does this help? Sometimes I'll say, what you're about to say now, is that helpful in any way? Is it really helpful? Is it? Is it helping you? Is it helping anyone?
Yeah.
And sometimes it absolutely is not. And to learn to say, that doesn't need to be there. I don't need to impress my ego into this situation.
Yeah. How about just learning not to respond to everything you hear?
That's right.
You can just be silent, and that's much more powerful.
I watch people who do that. I know people who do that, and I respect people who do that, who I've been in, you can imagine how many meetings I've been in over the last 23 years. And I've watched the people who are active listening. They do the right things. They're active listening. And then when they feel the time is right to add something productive, they do.
Yeah.
And guess what? Everyone listens. As the person is going, ooh, ooh, ah, well, I think.
They usually speak low, too, in a softer voice.
They speak metered.
Yeah.
Which is beautiful. I mean, I've tried to learn that. That's the Obama way. I've tried to learn the metered when I do public speaking, is to be metered.
It's powerful.
And it is powerful because you're making statements for a reason.
Right.
You're saying something for a reason. I feel this way because. And I just love that. I love that thoughtfulness, that comes with it too, with the goal to add something that's beneficial, not just to hear myself speak, or to let you know how, what I think, blah, 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 And if I do that, I have to tell you, there's times, and in my head I'm going, blah, blah, blah. Was that necessary?
Yeah.
Really? Honestly, did it help you or anyone else?
Yeah.
No.
Less is more sometimes.
Less is more.
Less is more.
Yeah.
So, how do you see, taking all this in, how do you see the future of Santa Monica? Let's play the next 10, 15 years.
Well, that's an interesting thing to ask me because I'm leaving it in 3 months. So
That's exactly why I'm asking.
But I'll tell you based on history, not necessarily future. Historically, this town has risen and fallen in many different ways, and it continues. This is, at the end of the day, talk about gratitude. Look around, folks. Look at this. One of our Pasadena managers used to love to say, Santa Monica, an embarrassment of riches. Look at the people and the beach and how close we are to all these opportunities to hike in nature and experience your whatever spirit is to you in those moments. For people to have fun, the think tank that's here. I mean, think of the biotech firms that are here in Rand. I could go on, and the wealth, the assets of Santa Monica. Do we have problems? Yeah. Does anyone have assets like we do on so many different levels? Honestly, they don't. They really don't. Because I know it. I travel, and I used to, I sat on I still do, the Travel and Tourism Board for, over 20 years now. I've been to other cities, I've been to other states, I've been to other countries, and people are like, oh, Santa Monica. I know, they may not know anything else, but you say, Santa Monica, and they have that special kind of reverence, and they should. So the future, I think the future is, we've got work to do, there's tough things, but Santa Monica is Santa Monica. We will always survive. We will always be one step ahead of most cities. And you hear that. I hear that. I hear that from all the time from people. Oh, you know what? They're nice, but you guys, Santa Monica, my favorite. You know, no matter what next door is telling you, right? We will recover, and we'll be stronger than we were. Well, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and we're still here to tell the tale, honestly. You know, and so I'm excited. You know, I may be not doing the same thing I'm doing, but I will always have my ear to the ground about what's going here. And 23 years of friendships and colleagues and mentors, that doesn't go away. You know, I've made so many friends here, you know, and I have so many people I love and I admire, and interests, you know, nonprofits that I will continue to sit on their boards and see how I can give back, to be of service in ways that I can, and enjoy, you know, just enjoy this place. It's a fun place to be. When you think of all the great things you can do here, it's a pretty fun place to be.
It's why it's Santa Monica.
Yeah.
It's one of the highest demanded places to live in the entire country. So, in the world.
Yeah.
So, you're excited about your next chapter?
I am.
Great.
Yeah, it feels good. I'm excited because I feel like I've done what I needed to do. That I know. You know, there's some unknowns in the future right now, which is great, and I want it that way. I don't want to make too many decisions right now, other than go to Thailand. That's about the only decision I'm making right now. But it just feels like the right time for me. It feels good. I feel good about it. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, we praise your hard work here.
Thank you.
You're loved and appreciated, and I know how hard it is to put in that kind of dedication and, you know, deal with some of the things you've dealt with over the years. It's hard work being a civic leader, and so thank you.
I've nurtured that baby for a long time, so I'm hoping to lovingly place it into someone else's hands who can really help things just continue to be great and have new ideas and do all sorts of fun stuff that I haven't even thought of, and cheer them on. You know, that's what I hope for.
Well, I wish you the best, and I'm always here for you.
I know. Well, like I said.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for this. This is always fun. We always have a great time.
This is always fun, and this is I suppose the end of our conversation for today, but hopefully you'll be back again in version 2 of this.
Yeah. I'll come back and tell you all about Thailand. How's that?
I love it. Sounds
That's
good.
an experience I'll be happy to talk about.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for
Show
everything.
you the pictures of my the monkeys and the elephants.
Great. We'll have to show them to the audience.
Yeah. Look at this.
All right. Well, I'll end off on a high five.
High five.
And see you soon.
The city we all love.
Santa Monica.
Santa Monica.
Thank you again to Loews for this beautiful fireside chat.
Doesn't get much better than that.
Meyerside chats at the fireside. Thank you, Laurel.